So while I was in a Doodletones live stream with a friend of mine by the name of GNXL, he ended up telling me about a video by a website by the name of Psych2Go, which basically does for the most part, well, bite-sized psychology, as I put it, considering the fact that they try to explain psychology on a level for everyone to understand. Old, young, professional, or those who just don't understand it entirely. However, within their videos when they try to do this, they end up generalizing things like information, explanations, and or just slack off on overall presentation that causes problems to arise, and that's where I come into the scene in this case. The video I'm going to be dissecting here is 8 unique LGBT dating problems, which is based off of the article that they link in the description by Alex Nunez that I'll be referring to a lot in this video because, well, that's what they're going to be using as their source to support what they're saying, and trying what I can to debunk and or challenge what is basically presented here. Although personally I would like to say that Psych2Go isn't trying to be intentionally malicious with what they're doing, but this video rubbed me in all the wrong ways when it came to the first draft of the script. I actually ended up having the script kinda going, well, downhill, where I was becoming more vicious and automatically assumed that Psych2Go was actually trying to attack people for things that shouldn't be attacked. Although, enough of my rambling, I think it's time to start this.
Dating is rough for everybody, but is being queer an extra hurdle to jump over in the effort to find love? We at Psych2Go say yes. There are many unique problems that those in the LGBT community face during their time on the dating scene. Without further ado, here is a list of 8 dating problems the LGBT community faces.
Keep this in mind, as this is actually going to be very important, considering the fact that this is supposed to be 8 unique problems to the LGBT, and, well, what the community faces. Meaning that this either applies to the entire LGBT, and only them, or subgroups or groups within the LGBT specifically. Although, there's 2 things I need to bring up here. One, their title involving LGBTQ, which, I guess that at the end of the day, it's just a minor nitpick of me not liking how the title doesn't match up with what's actually being said in the video. And 2, which is actually going to be the number 1 thing that we're going to be having to keep in mind, the article and what the video states is this.
Now keep in mind, the LGBT community is diverse, and a few of these problems are directed more to some than they are to others.
So remember, this is supposed to be applied to some and not the whole or majority, as stated by their article and their video.
Number 1. Casual racism. A recent study on gay dating preferences shows that 80% of black men, 79% of Asian men, and 75% of South Asian men have all endured racism in their efforts to date. Many people of color also experience fetishization. Black men are messaged in the hopes that they'll be aggressive or masculine. Asian men are often messaged because they might seem cute or submissive. How do women compare? Fairly better, actually. Queer women are less likely to be affected by ethnicity and more open to interracial dating.
Glad to know that this is a gross misrepresentation of what you guys are actually trying to cite, considering the fact that what you guys are trying to cite is actually a source from The Guardian titled, "No Asians, No Black People, Why Do Gay People Tolerate Blatant Racism?" Where it then cites your statistic by FS Magazine, which the entire article is gone with all the information that they had at hand. However, with the Wayback Machine, I was able to find that what this was actually applied to the UK only, when you guys are trying to imply this to the entire dating scene for the LGBT. Along with this, acting like this is only an issue that is applied to the LGBT, which, can I just say, is actually pretty fucking bad when you think about it, because with your piss poor wording in the article and in the video, you cannot add any form of, well, leeway for this to not sound like that you're demonizing gay white men, or gay men in general for doing this. Also, if I'm supposed to go off on FS Magazine for a quick second here, I kinda noticed that they're actually missing the total of people that they surveyed, how they surveyed, and what they were asking during the survey. Which, for all we could know here, people online here could be just talking about their experiences with dating, or the exact opposite and just flat out be talking about bad experiences and how many people were actually surveyed as well when doing this. Also, assuming that this is all true, which, my fucking god, I hope these people actually get some fair treatment in their lives, still doesn't justify what you're trying to spew here as fact, Psych2Go. Is it upsetting? Is it sad? Sure, I can fully agree with you here, but the thing is that this here doesn't actually fucking justify anything of what you're trying to say here, stating something as a global fact. Then, from what we were able to see further with the other citations from The Guardian, we see that it cites a Huffington Post article where it cites FS Magazine's main page without any actual article with what they're trying to back up and what they're saying, and well, without the actual issue number, I wasn't able to find that. And in turn, it doesn't actually show that they were actually trying to back up what they were saying because it's only citing to the main page. Then later on, they bring up select incidents on Grindr which seem to be missing, and with the Wayback Machine, I couldn't actually gather anything aside from this being gone. But then it starts talking down to gay white people who just have a fetish for black people for the most part. Then the last source the Huffington Post article links is a Springer Link abstract article that uses information back from the 1960s to 2013 to say that this is 2015 information, despite the fact that this is actually grossly outdated for today's time. Then going back to The Guardian, and what they cite is them talking about the Orlando terror attack, trying to cite themselves but do it incorrectly, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Then to talk about a singular event where it demonizes white people, more specifically white men, for being too common in the LGBT community, and then later talks about things being unrelated to what we're actually talking about here for the most part as well. So bottom line, you're grossly misrepresenting information and citing things that appear to be missing or misplaced for the most part, with your wording it making it sound like that only the LGBT community does this, where we can actually bring up instances where this isn't the case. As an example, back in 1993 with, I'm probably going to butcher the name here, Sharman Nelson, where he basically says that the black female body defines what the male's body wants to be pure in a sense, and how otherness is really what makes it so arousing and pleasurable for the most part. Where this is someone just saying that they're attractive in a racist but sexualized manner, basically. Making what you guys have to say about this only being applied to the LGBT is faulty at best, as the source I have cited will have many more examples of this as well. Also, Asian men?
Number 2. Fat and femme shaming. The queer community is full of individuals with different body types and gendered energies. This includes some of us who are a little on the skinny side, or weigh a few extra pounds, or exude some feminine energy. The unfortunate truth is, gay culture does not deem these traits desirable. In our world today, muscles and manliness win over femininity, which many mistakenly consider subordinate and lesser.
No they don't? Like, I can bring up the fact that we do have the idea of how we have porn sites dedicated to this kind of stuff, both gay and lesbian, and with this, the regular porn sites like Pornhub as well. We got this kind of stuff easily findable for the most part as well. Chubby and traps are both tag words in most search engines, you know. Hell, fat too. Also, if we're to go off of what you guys are saying with the Prime magazine source from your article, you guys seem to mistake the idea that this is meant to say that these characters are good and not they're the best and the rest are lesser and or irrelevant or unappealing for the most part as well. Also, this isn't to mention how this singular site saying this doesn't represent the entire LGBT community as well. Along with this, your wording makes this apply to the entire LGBT when you guys said this within the video.
Now keep in mind, the LGBT community is diverse, and a few of these problems are directed more to some than they are to others.
Makes this entire video a contradictory mess, as we're having a mixed message of, is this supposed to be applied to the entire LGBT or to some, as your video description and article suggests as well. This contradictory double meaning really hurts the video's overall message and causes strain on people like myself who actually get angry about how this is generalizing than actually stating things that are fact rather than things that are more than likely just a matter of opinion.
Number 3. Hookup culture. Believe me, when you're looking for a hookup or a friends with benefits type situation, this can be great. This is not to say that there aren't queer people who are searching for a deeper connection. But if you are looking to get to know someone before they stick their hands down your pants, this can be extremely frustrating. It's not easy talking to someone you've just met only for them to ask you about your sexual preferences and what your genitals look like.
So again, this is applying to the entire LGBT, as from what I'm seeing from your article here, it says that it is expected from all people within the LGBT to expect sex without any core evidence to back this up as well. And you guys saying that this isn't to say that people aren't looking for a deeper connection, this becomes very confusing. Also, to even add on to as to how this actually becomes a bigger issue than what it would first appear, you all seem to blame this on the idea that this is expected of us because of a gay culture, but blame it on the fucking heterosexual culture in society? Which is the first time I've ever heard of this being a thing. You guys are actually blaming the entire LGBT for this problem essentially, but saying this is because of the heterosexuals making our vision hazy for something that's clearly a stretch at best? Especially when you guys mentioned this isn't to be a blanketed thing on the entire LGBT, but instead the some making this again something very fucking irritating to sit through.
Number 4. Not enough fish in the sea. Growing up in an urban cityscape can be the best thing in the world for a queer person looking for options. Whether you're in New York, LA, Tokyo, or London, there is endless opportunity for you to find the person of your dreams. Not in a city packed with people? The odds are less in your favor. It's hard for a queer person in a small town or sparsely populated area to meet potential partners. Don't give up.
Hey guys! Your chances of dying alone are vastly increased when you live in a very small town. But don't give up! Despite the fact that this one can actually easily be applied to everyone who lives in a small resident neighborhood. If we are just talking about finding someone where you live, considering the fact that there's less people, there's just, well, that. Less people. Also, this here could be considered to be false as well if people have access to the internet and or travel as well, considering the fact that you can meet people of various types when traveling and or on the internet as well. Also, this isn't to consider the possibility of dating sites, social medias, and even knowing other people who may travel as well who can actually help you find others to meet out there as well. Is there that problem for people in small neighborhoods? Yes. Is there a possible risk and stress factor with long distance relationships? Again, yes. However, this isn't to say that when you guys are trying to say here on its own is false, but the ignorance of other factors does become the overall issue here when you decide to look a bit more into this than just say that, to say the least.
Dating in a small town does not mean that you're doomed.
Hooray!
Number 5. Are they even into you? Sure, there are some common tells that could give us some insight on whether someone is LGBT, but sometimes the only way to know is to ask. Is she into women or not? Can you get a guy to fall in love with you even though he keeps calling you his bro? For the LGBT community, this is a common obstacle.
I guess, but couldn't this also be applied to, well, everyone? This is just to figure out if a person finds you to be desirable for themselves and, well, for you to find out. There is possible signs of them being interested in yourself, although the best way to know for sure is if you end up asking. Isn't this supposed to be just problems unique to the entire LGBT?
1. They compare you to their siblings. 2. They aren't responsive to your advances. 3. They talk about their crushes or relationships with you. 4. They introduce you to other people as their friends. 5. They only invite you to group events.
Number 6. Dating while closeted. Let me preface this point by saying that many people choose to keep their sexual identity a secret for a range of reasons, including the preservation of their personal safety. That being said, it is hard to date while you are still in the closet. It can be mentally and emotionally exhausting to keep the person you love a secret. It can also be just as exhausting for your partner, who must help you maintain a double life in order for your relationship to continue. For these reasons, those who date while in the closet may experience relationship strain.
Well, again, this could also be applied to, any couple depending on the circumstances. We could end up having people who have families that are not tolerant of certain things in general, and or can have peers, friends, or associates, or live in a community of residents where it can actually have these people be outed forever, and can ruin the associations or lives of some individuals in today's time. Sure, I guess you can make the argument that there's a possibility of it being more common in the LGBT, but the point still stands. This could be a problem that is more of a case-by-case scenario as well in some cases, as this could actually be easier to pull off than others too.
Number 7. Dating with HIV. HIV is still a huge taboo in the LGBT community today. Modern medicine has come a long way over the past few decades, and HIV is no longer a death sentence. But those who live with HIV-positive statuses are shunned from the dating scene because of this same fear and the misconceptions many of us have of HIV. While it is still important to take safety measures, HIV is an obstacle that can be overcome by couples. It is important to remember that people with HIV are not dirty or deserving of their status in any way, and it's totally possible to have a healthy, safe relationship with an HIV-positive individual.
So I'm just gonna let this sink in here for a second here. You're saying that this is an LGBT problem, despite the fact that both males and females can get HIV, and have heterosexually and homosexually. And although it is possible for people to get into a healthy and safe relationship with one who's HIV positive, however, the thing is that you're somewhat acting like this is a bad thing for people to not want to be in a relationship with someone who's HIV positive, when this is a life-changing disease that has to date no known cure, for any other STD or STI. Can we just please not, have this be a thing? Because this is actually kind of terrifying.
Number 8. Transphobia. Dating can be rough if you're trans. Trans and non-binary individuals still receive a great deal of harassment in regards to their gender, sex, and appearance. Trans and non-binary people also have the added stress of deciding if and when to disclose their identity to dates and partners. Many trans people who are simply looking to get to know someone often find themselves fetishized.
Okay, so I can see how this can be a problem if we had assumptions with some fetishizations like you had with the first one, but without any details as to what the common problems are with those who are the trans or non-binary section of the LGBT, as I, someone who doesn't know all the details about transgender or non-binary people, would not know what the actual problem is here. And well, for all we know, the reasons could actually be very important, but like, how am I to know what the actual problem is if we're not actually told what the problem is for fetishizing those who are transgender or non-binary? Like, what are the problems? What are the common fetishizations? When you have us tossed into the void of, you know, having something as bland and basic as this, I'm only left here asking. Also, before you decide to start talking about the source that you guys decided to cite in your article, no, it mentions nothing about fetishization of that individual, so now I'll be on my soapbox here with my speech. What the fuck actually happened here? The video actually got me very angry when I first watched it. I'm actually still worked up over this video. The reason being that the misrepresentation of facts and not understanding what you are even presenting here as well, where you guys are actually presenting common claptrap that I see from the radical far left as credible information, causes problems on both sides of those who are on both sides of the metaphorical rainbow fence. Those who don't really question things and just assume this as credible because you guys have an article and has citations that say so, and or just assume that it's true based on the many likes compared to dislikes, or hey, you guys have 1 million subscribers in our psychology site, so it has to be true. Then they end up saying this themselves in public, making fools of themselves with facts that are grossly misrepresented or misunderstood, and gets people like myself actually really aggravated with them because this is actually incorrect, dishonest claptrap that they were fed. That affects those who are on the opposite side of the rainbow fence, who will see what's being said, and then notice things are fallible and will likely represent the LGBT and those who defend it to people who say things like this and dismiss others who may actually have legitimate arguments to show the LGBT could still be facing problems like myself, but we'll have it tossed aside because we had one place who's trying to pass themselves as a credible source of information to a piss poor best representation of facts and understanding of the world. The fact that I have debated for LGBT rights as much as I have on this channel, debating people like Smartass Burb, Christopher L, I Antitheist, and Ephraim Josine, seeing the absolute opposite end of people actually getting onto the lines of actually demonizing an entire group time to time, actually talking down to them while actually having this little facade of making this seem like that you guys are trying to address issues for the greater good of the LGBT, this actually disgusts me. The fact that this video was released this year aggravates me to obnoxious degrees. The fact that this is from a site that's supposed to be talking about psychology and is supposed to be educating people? Not only does this make this the worst video I've ever covered, but I would even go as far as to say this is objectively the worst video on the LGBT this year. Happy Pride Month, everybody.